When most people think of the Black Panthers, they see guns, leather jackets, berets, anger. That image didn't emerge naturally. It was manufactured, amplified, repeated until it drowned out everything else. But here's what the image erased. Every morning before school, Panther volunteers served free breakfast to tens of thousands of children. Children who would otherwise go hungry. Children who couldn't learn because hunger made concentration impossible. January 20th, 1969, Oakland, California. The Black Panther Party launched the first ever free breakfast for children program. That first morning, 11 kids showed up. By the end of the week, more than 100 were eating hot meals before class. Within months, every Black Panther chapter nationwide launched breakfast programs. By 1970, the movement had grown to 23 cities, feeding over 20,000 children daily. The impact was immediate. Kids showed up to school focused, attendance improved, teachers saw the difference, communities united around something tangible, and that's exactly what scared the government. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover called the Panthers' breakfast program the greatest threat to internal security. Not their weapons, not their rhetoric, feeding Black children. Because the breakfast program did something no armed patrol ever could, it proved Black communities didn't need the government to survive. It proved they could organize, mobilize resources, and meet their own needs better than the state that claimed to serve them. The program worked so well that the federal government eventually adopted it. What we now call the National School Breakfast Program was born directly out of Panther organizing. They built it, the government copied it, then called them terrorists. But breakfast was just the beginning. The Panthers understood something most movements miss. Liberation isn't one demand. It's a network of needs that must be met simultaneously. Food, health, education, defense, all at once. While the media focused on guns, the Panthers were building infrastructure. And infrastructure is far more dangerous to power than any weapon. While the Panthers fed children, they also built free health clinics. At a time when mainstream medicine ignored diseases that primarily affected Black people, the Panthers launched the first mass testing program for sickle cell anemia. Over 50,000 people were screened. Lives were saved. Awareness spread. The Panthers didn't wait for research grants or government approval. They trained volunteers, secured equipment, and opened clinics in 13 cities. These weren't symbolic gestures. They were functioning medical facilities staffed by volunteer nurses, medical students, and community members who learned on the job. They provided prenatal care, tested for lead poisoning, treated common illnesses, and referred serious cases to hospitals. The message was clear. We don't need you to save us. We can save ourselves. But the Panthers understood that feeding bodies without feeding minds would never produce liberation. So they held classes. Every week, they taught Black history that schools erased. They broke down laws in plain language so people understood their rights. They analyzed economic systems, explained how exploitation worked, and showed communities how power actually functioned. They distributed newspapers. The Black Panther newspaper reached over 100,000 readers at its peak. It wasn't propaganda. It was political education. It explained tenant rights, welfare regulations, police procedures, legal defenses, information that could keep people alive and free. The Panthers didn't want followers. They wanted thinkers, because a community that understands power cannot be controlled through fear. They offered legal aid for people who couldn't afford lawyers. They provided transportation for elderly residents to visit family members in prison. They created drug rehabilitation programs when the government flooded communities with heroin. They organized community patrols to walk people home safely at night. These weren't protest actions. They were replacements. Proof that Black communities didn't need permission to meet their own needs. Proof that autonomy was possible. And that proof was unforgivable. The Panthers weren't just carrying guns, they were building systems. And a people who can build systems don't need rulers. They need resources and space. The government was willing to give neither. White America didn't panic because Black men had guns. Armed white militias had existed since before the country was founded. The Ku Klux Klan terrorized Black communities for generations with almost no interference. Armed white groups have always marched openly, claiming patriotism and freedom. What terrified the system was that the Panthers exposed the lie, that the Constitution wasn't applied equally, that rights were conditional, that freedom was selective. The Black Panthers didn't fail. They were defeated by a system that could not allow black people to defend themselves, educate themselves, and empower themselves all at once. Every Panther program was an indictment. When they fed children, they exposed government neglect. When they ran clinics, they exposed medical racism. When they patrolled police, they exposed brutality officials insisted didn't exist. When they taught law, they exposed selective enforcement. The government claimed to serve these communities. The Panthers proved that claim was false. And they didn't prove it through speeches or protests. They proved it by doing the job better. A functioning alternative is the greatest indictment of a failing system. The Panthers weren't asking for reform. They were building replacement infrastructure. And replacement infrastructure threatens legitimacy itself. This is why FBI Director Hoover didn't target the Panthers for violence. He targeted them for effectiveness. His internal memos make this clear. The goal wasn't to stop crime. It was to prevent the rise of a black messiah who could unify and electrify the black nationalist movement. A messiah wasn't a religious figure. It was anyone who could make resistance feel normal. Anyone who could connect struggles across regions. Anyone who could translate theory into practice that saved lives. Fred Hampton was 21 years old and organizing poor black, white, and Latino communities around shared economic oppression. That terrified the state more than any rifle. The Panthers proved something the government couldn't allow to spread, that black communities could protect, feed, heal, and educate themselves without asking permission. That autonomy wasn't a dream. It was achievable, and for that proof, they would be annihilated. If you want to understand how power actually works, how movements are built, then targeted, then erased, subscribe to the Mac Jetson channel. Because they didn't just try to destroy the Panthers, they tried to bury the proof that self-determination works. We're here to dig it back up.